Welcome to the Outer Banks podcast, presented by Seaside Vacations, with nearly 400 hassle-free Outer Banks vacation rentals. Begin planning your Outer Banks beach escape today at OuterBanksVacations.com. Here's your host, Chad Fournier.
Hey, it's Chad from Seaside Vacations, and today I have Robert Farmer on the podcast, owner, operator, proprietor, developer of Farmdog Surf School here on the Outer Banks. How you doing, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming in. Let's just get into it by having you explain about Farmdog Surf School for people who have not heard about it, because this is an awesome setup that you have.
Well, Farmdog Surf School is, we're kind of referring to it as an activity center.
Okay.
We have an NSSIA certified surf school, and we teach kids of all ages how to surf. We teach people that have surfed a little bit how to surf better. In the facility that we have, which is on the beach road in Nags Head, we also have some friends who have a gym in the building. So if people are here and they want to work out, or we have a jiu-jitsu studio that's there as well. So like, if you're here visiting the Outer Banks, or you're a local that wants to kind of have a number of different activities to do under one roof, we have you covered.
That's awesome, because a lot of people, they come on vacation, they want to continue their workouts.
Well, the gym, so just to be clear, like we don't own the gym,
right?
But it's in the same building. But it's a former pro surfer, Noah Snyder, grew up here. He runs the gym, and also he has a partner that he runs a gym with, and then his partner's brother heads up the jiu-jitsu program. So it's kind of a big family,
right?
Of surfers and enthusiasts.
Yeah, so it's all owned by you, but you guys are just all kind of there hanging out together and, helping each other pass guests back and forth to tell them this is what is here that you can take advantage of. Yeah,
and then also we do we do stand-up paddleboarding. We do tours and lessons for stand-up paddleboarding, whether that's flat water or out in the ocean. And then we, of course, rent the associated equipment. So we have surfboards, stand-up paddleboards, wetsuits. We rent bikes. We do quite a bit of stuff like that. And I have a couple of business partners that are from Australia, oddly enough. And there's long stories as to how we all met and everything. But they're very deeply involved and excellent surfers and instructors and just good all around people. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, obviously sounds like you are very well connected and a part of the Outer Banks surfing community. You're probably connected to surfing around the world, and I would take it different surfers from all over the place, sounds like.
I think surfing, what you're hitting on, and maybe don't know, the global surfing community is pretty small anyway.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't know how connected I am, but just for the longevity of surfing, you just meet people from all over the world, and you travel quite a bit, because as a surfer, one of the great things is you want to go around the world and surf the best waves in the world. So you just end up meeting people from all over the planet, and you share that commonality with them. So
I find that's an interesting and kind of common thing on the Outer Banks. I was interviewing Luke Bear from Kitty Hawk Kites, and he was kind of telling me about the hang gliding community.
Sure,
and it's kind of the same deal. It's people from all over you just happen to meet as part of the community.
That community is probably smaller than the surfing community too. So
the interesting thing to me is all those types of communities you can find here on the Outer Banks. So I just find it really interesting. If you're on vacation, you're going to Farmdog Surf School to take a surf lesson, you're not just taking it from some guy. It's someone who's connected to surfing, and same thing with Kitty Hawk Kites and hang gliding, and I'm sure it's the same deal with some kiteboarding places down here.
Sure.
Like it's not just somebody doing it. It's part of the bigger community. You can find all of that here on the Outer Banks. It's one of the reasons why it's such an amazing place.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just to sort of carry on with that, part of the reason that it's so connected, number one, we we are a destination for people from all over the world to visit and do these activities,
Right.
but also because it really is seasonal here. So a lot of the people that do live
Right.
here and do participate in these activities, frequently they have, some time off in the off season where they travel.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and then they bring more people back. They go to wherever, and they're like, man, you should come to the Outer Banks.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so awesome. Such a cool place. Well, let's talk about if you're visiting the Outer Banks. Obviously, you're like, oh, this is a great place to surf. You can surf out here. You want to try it. It's somebody who's always kind of thought about it, but never really pulled the trigger. They're on vacation down here now. They want to do this. They come and see you. What can they expect? What is it like? How good of shape do they need to be in? What kind of coordination would you say they need? Are you able to just get anyone to stand up on the board? How long does it take to get people to stand up? I know the conditions are going to vary, but just a total noob coming down on vacation and they come to you for a class, what can they expect?
Well, to be frank, we specialize in total noobs. So, and the questions that you're asking me are right at the top of the list of the questions that we get when people are calling or stopping in. They may be a man or a woman who's they're empty nesters and they've always wanted to do it and they've never had the opportunity. Or it could be kids that want to do it for the first time. Sometimes you have people that are bucket listers, and then sometimes you have people that are like, I want to do this forever, and I just want someone to show me the right way to do it. But to fully answer your question, it certainly helps to be in good shape, just like any activity.
Right.
But we have an enormous variety of sizes of boards. So we can accommodate people that are all different shapes and sizes. The staff is very good at identifying maybe sticking points with people that they might have with popping up and getting to their feet so that they can give them sort of alternate approaches to like standing on a wave. But I would say the biggest obstacle really to people standing up and riding a wave those obstacles are almost always mental.
Okay.
It's the belief that they can't do it. And for the most part, people can, there's obviously people that have mobility issues that may not be able to do it, or people that have, I don't know, maybe they've got an injury that might preclude them from paddling or popping up. But a lot of people, the vast majority of people that we take out, stand up and ride waves.
Gotcha.
It's in the 90th percentile.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And so what is that like, teaching someone for the first time and seeing them as they're riding their first wave? I mean, I'm sure they're just over the moon about it, but that's got to be a cool feeling for you guys too.
It is, and I think that's one of the great things about being an instructor, and why, to me, it never really gets old, because the joy and the excitement that someone has, that they get from being on a wave for the first time, is so contagious. Like, I feel it too. It's part of, like, we're working hard for the guests, for them to come and get up and ride waves, and like, we want them to succeed probably more than they do. Right. It's like, so it's awesome. Like, I've been doing it for a long time, and it does not get old.
Right. How did you get into surfing?
So I guess you could sort of file me under one of those people that grew up inland and always wanted to surf. Okay. And just never had a chance. And so, when I went to college, I was about, 2 hours from here. My family, we always vacationed here when I was a little kid. So like way too young to surf.
Gotcha.
But when I went to college, I was only about 2 hours from here. And so I started just coming down here and sort of reconnecting with the ocean. And then I decided to just move here and learn to surf when I was like 23.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So how did that translate into you starting the Farmdog Surf School?
Well, it's a long, windy road. But I think really what happened was I surfing's hard, and I was a reasonably good athlete, and it wasn't something that just happens. You have to work really hard. You have to be mentally and physically strong, and to get reasonably good at it. And I think because I learned as an adult, those memories of the struggles that I had of just the ocean winning over and over and over and over.
Right.
Kind of resonated with me. Like I've never forgotten the first time I stood on a wave, and the trials that I went through to get there. And I was working at a surf shop, a few years later, and it never even dawned on me to give surf lessons. It just wasn't a thing. And this kid came into the surf shop, and he's like, hey, do you think you could teach me how to surf? And I was like, sure, and I can't remember how much I charged him or whatever. Right. It was like some tiny amount to go be in the ocean. And it's funny. So I remember very clearly, it was like a calm, foggy morning in the summer on the Outer Banks, and a tri-masted sailing ship sailed by.
Really?
While we were out in the middle we were by ourselves in the ocean in the morning, and I couldn't believe it. It was almost like it was a dream.
You don't see that.
Yeah. And you could hear the ship, you could hear it creaking and it was that close. And to this day, I'm like, was that just an Outer Banks ghost ship?
Right.
Did that really happen? So the very first time, the very first wave, the kid stood up. He was awesome. Had no idea what to do. So he stood up and he rode waves, and he was great. And then this creaky old clipper ship went by, and it was just one of those mornings. And I was like, man, I think maybe I could do this.
It sounds like it was a sign, the way everything came together like that. The morning, the ship, the easy time he had doing it.
Yeah.
That's a good, first surf lesson experience to kind of ingrain that in you.
It was probably no kidding. It was probably 8 years later before I did another one.
Really?
Yeah, maybe even longer. And in the meantime, some surf schools sprung up.
Okay.
So people, because I was sort of in and out of retail here, and I worked in the surf industry a little bit, as a sales rep, and so I wasn't here sort of affiliated with a shop. And so then when I decided to open a shop here with some friends of mine, and so we put a surf school in the shop, and then subsequently I pulled the surf school out and had that become a standalone business. So that's kind of how it all got to this point.
Gotcha. And then you've since added stand-up paddleboarding and all the other stuff that you had talked about.
Sure. Yeah, and renting things, and then we also do we do cabana service and beachside services.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's talk about stand-up paddleboarding for a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, that certainly seems to be taking off, at least down here on the Outer Banks. You see more and more people doing it all the time. Now, are you getting a lot of people asking for lessons on that? Is that easier to learn for a first lesson than surfing, or?
I think stand-up paddleboarding is definitely more accessible.
Okay.
It's something, if you came here from an area that has a big lake,
sure,
or a river that wasn't rapids or whatever, you can stand up paddleboard on any body of flat water, and people they ride rapids on them, they go off waterfalls on them, whatever you want to do. So stand up paddleboarding is definitely more accessible to people, and it can be in the sound here if you want to have that sort of smooth, mellow, glassy, no wake, no wave experience, or of course you can do it in the ocean. You can ride waves on them. So it's definitely more accessible to more people.
Sure.
It is definitely easier, and doesn't have the same types of physical requirements that surfing does.
Right.
So I think your average sort of weekend warrior that wants to try something, that doesn't want to invest in surfing, stand-up paddleboarding I think it's really cool. Like I really, I'm primarily a surfer, but I will catch waves on a stand-up paddleboard. I'll paddle the sound. Like it just opens up an entire new way of seeing the Outer Banks, in my opinion. So
now that you mention it, I do remember seeing quite a few people over the course of this past summer on their paddleboards with their dogs on the paddleboards with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely seems like it is more accessible if the pooches are riding around on those things.
When we sell them at the end of the season, we have people that are like, can I put my dog on this? Like, that's one of the questions I get. So definitely dog friendly for sure.
Very cool.
Surfing is not nearly as dog friendly, but there are people that take their dogs out in the ocean on surfboards too. So,
right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about when you're open. The Outer Banks obviously kind of operates a little seasonally. So we have between Memorial Day and Labor Day is our big season, that, summer season. I mean, we have spring and fall, though, which is also a great time to come down and visit because the weather's still super nice here. And in the fall, the water's still pretty warm. So
the water's 68 today.
Yeah.
It's late October.
Late October, 68, exactly. So how do you operate as far as all that's concerned?
So we are just like, any other business down here. We're super busy during the full season, but we generally open a couple weeks before Easter, or keep regular shop hours a couple weeks before Easter. So depending on when Easter is, because it varies quite a bit. And then we usually, we will close except for weekends in like mid-October.
Okay.
So like we're weekends right now, and we will continue to be open some weekends through Christmas.
Okay.
And then like January, February, and generally most of March, we're not in there.
So when the water's colder, you guys provide protection for people to wear in the water if they want to take a surf lesson.
Yeah, so we're really the only outfitter down here that has like boots, gloves, full wetsuits. So you can come down here and you can take a lesson in a snowstorm if you want.
Right.
Okay. So it's definitely hardcore here in the winter. I've had some clients that have, stuck with it and gotten lessons through the dead of winter.
Yeah.
So what we normally do in cases like that is if they're a regular, we usually break the time period down. Like instead of doing like 2 hours, we do like an hour because it's cold.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
it's not something you want to be out super long time in.
Yeah.
But...
And as an instructor, I'm submerged in it. And no matter how good your gear is, being submerged in 46-degree water for any length of time starts getting difficult.
Right.
So
going back to the beginner lessons, I know we have a lot of sandbars on the Outer Banks, so this is probably maybe a dumb question, but I don't know. Do you utilize those at all as far as the beginner lessons? I mean, I know if you fall off, a crazy wave onto a sandbar, that's super dangerous. But if it's a really do you take people out on like really light wave days and utilize those sandbars for lessons at all?
So,
I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, waves break on sandbars.
Right.
So if you don't have a sandbar, then the wave's going to break right on the beach.
Right. So
the short answer is yes, we take people out on sandbars. That's just the only way that you can surf.
Okay.
But I think the bigger point is if the waves are big and crazy, we're not taking a beginner out.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you're not doing it anyway.
Yeah,
so.
We wouldn't be doing them any favors by taking them out there.
Okay.
So one of the hardest things about what we do is having to tell people no. And there are a number of days in the summer where we are adamant that we're not going to take people out because we don't think the conditions. I don't want to say it's not safe. Sometimes it's not safe, and the lifeguards will red flag the beaches, and then it's obvious.
Yeah.
But there are days where, quite frankly, the client will not get their money's worth because the bulk of the time will be them just trying to get out.
Right.
Like it's the ocean's unrelenting. It doesn't care that you're having a surf lesson.
Right. Exactly.
So it's just doing its thing.
Yeah.
And so we try to whittle out the days where it would be really, really difficult for the clients. And there's some weeks, where we can't really effectively do lessons.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a struggle. I mean, the lifeguards even have to hear about it sometimes because they'll have the red flags up, and
they're
it's.
flagging
I've
the
had
beaches.
I've had family down, and they were like, "It was fine here yesterday. Why can't we go in today?" And it's like, trust me, you don't want to go in there. It's just. Don't worry about it. Everyone knows what they're doing. I mean, that's the thing with living here and, with you being a surfer, when it's good and when it's not.
It just boils down to whether or not you're going to give them a good value and a
Right.
good experience. And I think people respect that. Like, I think your clients, when you're looking them in the eye and saying, look, I'd love to take you and your family out. And I appreciate that you trust me to take you out when it's like this.
Right.
But you're not going to get a good value for it. I mean, I had people come in today.
Yeah.
And it was blowing north at 28 knots.
Yeah, it's a windy day today.
and I said, I'm sorry, there's no way we can do this.
Right, right. Well, and you bring up a good point, too. I mean, having to swim out past the break on a surfboard, depending on the conditions, it can not be an easy task sometimes.
Yep. And I've had... over the course of doing lessons for a long time, I've also had to learn that some of the things that we take for granted, like I've made assumptions sometimes about my clients that they were more capable than they are, and I've made assumptions that they were less capable. So I have to understand that everybody's different, and some people are there. There's only so much paddling in your arms.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's 30 minutes. Some people it's 45 minutes. Some people it's an hour and a half.
Right.
So you just have to be, you have to be able to understand who you're working with and what their physical capabilities are so that they have a good time and you don't wear them out. If they get worn out, they can't surf.
Yeah. It's not going to work. And It's not going to be any fun for anyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. You touched on the Clipper ship, so I'm going to hit you up right now for any good other types of stories like that, either when you were giving a lesson or just from surfing on the Outer Banks in general. I'm sure you have a couple that pop to the top of your mind.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the aquatic life that you see when you're surfing. Like this summer, we have... almost every day we have dolphins go by.
Yeah.
And people are out on boards and they're like, they literally just can't believe it.
Right.
They're dolphins swimming by. And it's another one of those things that doesn't grow old for me. Like I see them and I'm like,
That's
hey,
awesome.
look, dolphins, but I had sea turtles come by this summer.
Oh,
We've
that's cool.
had manatee all the way up here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, believe it or not, whales. Like I've been in the water and had a whale breach maybe 10 feet away.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. And the customer didn't even see it. It was I'm like, you can't even believe that about a 20-foot long whale just went behind you. And they're like, come on.
Come on, man.
And you just don't even see a ripple. It's gone.
Oh, it's so crazy. Yeah. Just thinking what's out there that you don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a clue, but it's really, really crazy. I was in the Sound one day and I came upon 3 dolphins.
Yeah.
Same type of deal. When you're that close to them, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So.
And they're wild animals. You have to be respectful. One of the things I try to impart to people is that you have this idea that because you're in the water and you can see houses and you can see activity that you're still in Nags Head.
Yeah.
Right? But you're not. You're in the wilderness.
That's a really good point.
When you go into the ocean, you're in the wilderness. And so people that go into wilderness areas in the mountains or whatever, they understand that there's a possibility that they're going to see wild animals, And so it's just, you have to explain to them that you're going to see dolphins, but you're not in a zoo.
Right.
They're 300-pound wild animals swimming by. It's wild. It's really cool.
That is a really good point because the house is right there, the beach is right there,
and the lifeguard stand.
Yeah,
and,
so you look over here and it's like civilization, but if you were to turn around, it's a whole different feeling.
Almost infinite. You just look out and it's the horizon, it's ocean, it's wilderness.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Just what a cool way to make a living and get to meet cool, interesting people that come down to visit the Outer Banks. It never ceases to amaze me. We were talking about it earlier. Like if you had a week to vacation on the Outer Banks, how many different types of vacations you could have depending on what you decide to do in that week. Because there's just so much stuff here.
Yeah.
And it's just so much amazing stuff like that. Like you said, it's wilderness right there out in the ocean. So yeah, it's very cool. Any stories from your surf time? Maybe not a lesson thing, but something interesting that happened when you were just out doing your thing, maybe before you even started the school.
I guess really, I mean, this surf stories are always boring to people that weren't there, but it's, I just think like just traveling, like I've surfed in Bali and Sumatra and I've surfed Java, Hawaii, Mexico, California. I've surfed in the Gulf of St. Lawrence in Canada. Like I've surfed in some really random places.
Right.
And, it's just, I don't know. It's just great. My wife and I, we have taken surf trips together and we ended up getting married on a surf trip.
Oh, cool.
So like we were just like, we're here, that we love this place.
Right.
We're in Costa Rica and we were like, let's just get married. you
Right.
know? So I just think, the surfing and in and of itself, it just puts you in, it takes you out of your comfort zone. And all the traveling and the things you experience, just generally around the globe are remarkable.
Yeah. It seems like you just would add up to a really cool life.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
So
take the Outer Banks out of the equation. What are your top 3 favorite surf spots that you've been to, that you've surfed?
Boy, that's tricky. I think any of our listeners that are veteran surfers would definitely want, the Mentawais. It's an island chain off the coast of Sumatra.
Okay.
It's incredible there. Like absolutely incredible. And you don't have to take a boat, but you like doing a boat trip in the Mentawais. I'd say that'd be number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I would say would be, mainland Mexico. Mexico has incredible surf and they have really good pockets of tourism infrastructure.
Okay.
Like nice roads.
Yeah.
Like we here in the US, like we hear all these stories about Mexico, but like
Right.
I found the people and the culture to be extraordinary, like very hospitable. The waves are great, like really spectacular. And probably number 3, I'd probably have to say, honestly, if we're being like really broad, man, California is awesome.
Right.
It is different because most of the places that you surf are going to be generally in Southern California. So it's urban,
Okay.
but, it's got great waves. The food's great. It's expensive, but like you can do anything in Southern California. You can you can go see the Dodgers play, and then at the same night that you go surf, you can go surfing and go snowboarding in the same day.
Right. Right.
So it's like, it's a great place to be a surfer for sure.
Very cool.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everyone, if they want to come check you guys out, what milepost are you at?
We are at 10.5.
Okay.
We're on the beach road in Nags Head, so we're on the little road.
Okay.
Most of the commercial businesses are on the bypass. We're also in a somewhat historic structure on the Outer Banks. We're in one of the oldest commercial buildings in Nags Head.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was built in 48, which is
wow.
long time ago.
Yeah.
In Nags Head.
Yeah, I think that was the year my dad was born.
So,
and he's 70 now. So yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Very cool. And where can we find you online?
farmdogsurfschool.com. We also, of course, have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff.
And then you are, of course, with Seaside Vacations, you're a member of our club Seaside program.
That's
so
correct.
If you rent a vacation rental through Seaside Vacations, if you choose us to connect you to the Outer Banks, you will get a discount off of services from Farmdog Surf School.
Everything's free.
Yeah, everything's free. Come on down. No, he's joking. But you do get a discount, and we will give you that information if you book a vacation rental through us, or just get a hold of us, outerbanksvacations.com, and we can give you that info as well. Robert Farmer, appreciate you coming in, sir.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for all the info, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.